This guy is nuts. Is he really making daily recordings of his possible divorce and releasing it as a podcast? They both cheated on each other. She's making six figures and still doesn't contribute to any joint endeavors financially. Why is she still with him? Why is he still with her? I can't wait for the next episode. This helped me be a better wife. So this is how men think. I hate my husband less now. I understand my wife more now. These are some of the listener comments to the Divorce Diaries podcast. All over the map, I know. These anonymous accounts of events should resonate with anyone that has been married, is married, or is preparing for marriage and helps couples avoid pitfalls as they might prepare for marriage. Entire seasons are released on Patreon weeks before anywhere else at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Link in description. Now for today's episode.
Today was a good day in the very early morning. I was getting a little bit apprehensive. Right now it's January 8th, 2022, and I finally spoke with my daughter. I haven't spoken with her in days. She hasn't called me or anything like that. I don't know if I'm letting the cart get away from the horse right now, but I am feeling strongly like my wife is digging in and doing something where my daughter can only speak to me on speakerphone now over the phone. And I feel like my ex and my other daughter are likely needing to or wanting to be in the room to witness all of the conversations that I'm having with the youngest. And it's funny. I was listening to a Dwayne Wade podcast on the Jordan Harbinger Show podcast, and Dwayne Wade was the guest, and they touched briefly on Dwayne Wade's, I guess, tumultuous custody battle that he must have had some years ago. I had no idea about this, but he just put it into words. It sucks, and it doesn't make any sense when parents are arguing, and the vying for the attention and the grace and the love and the allegiance of children is just a really horrible thing, because, like, I'll be totally honest. I do want the allegiance of my daughter, my other children as well. I want them to align with me. Now, my reason for wanting them to align with me is because I know that I would never try to separate them from their other parent. And I want their allegiance to align with me because I feel that my stance is the righteous one, and I feel that based on the things that my wife has done and said and hasn't done and said, she wants me to be distanced from my children. If you asked her, I'm sure she would say, of course not. You're their dad and I want you in their lives. I practice sort of what I preach a little bit more with that. When my wife moved out of our family home many years ago, and she went and leased her own place, and, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm a boss babe. I make money. I could do this. I could do that. I didn't change any locks. I didn't put any restrictions on if she could or couldn't come over. She just continued to come back to the family home, where I continued to pay that 100% of that mortgage. I paid all of the expenses for that place. All the utilities, all the food, and that's where the kids were living. And she went and she got her own place, fully furnished it, lived there, got the kids to come over for sleepovers, and came back when she wanted, whenever she wanted. And I never stopped it. I never said, hey, no, there are boundaries. Hey, no, I just went along with it. There was not a frame of the relationship that I was maintaining. There wasn't any standards that I had for myself. I just let her do what she wanted, and she could come back carte blanche and be there or not be there. It was whatever she wanted to do, and I didn't want to erect anything in between her and her children, or me and her, or anything. I just wanted everything to be open and be fixed and be better. That is why I want my children very, very much to align with me, because I do know, based on my examples, I want them to follow me, because I will never separate the family or take any steps to actively drive wedges or build grudges or disdain or lie. My wife is very different than I am. and with the children aligning with her, they are very young, and they also, in their defense, like, they're not doing anything wrong. Children are supposed to be able to trust their parents. Children are supposed to literally be able to believe everything their parents say. And even if they can't believe everything their parents say, children are supposed to be able to believe that the intentions of their parents are good. And I do know, and I will say, for me and my personal traumas, which is why we all need to get into therapy, once you find out and accept that you may have a parent that whose intentions are not good, or whose intentions are for the betterment of themselves versus you, their child, it's a very painful transition of acceptance. Understanding that my father put himself before me, his child, that was tough. Accepting that reality. My children are going to have to accept the fact that their mother is flawed and their dad is flawed. Their mother has been dishonest. Their father has been dishonest. Their mother, we didn't treat each other well. We, how can I say this? We may have been bad to each other in the constraints of our relationship. And they're also going to have to say, hey, my dad did this bad thing, but his intentions were this, and that's clear. His intentions were, I didn't tell you anything about your mom and our past relationship struggles because I feel that that is not something a child should necessarily know or not know. A parent shouldn't involve a child in those things because you get in the mud and you're forced to choose, you're forced to pick a side, and it's just not fair or right. But their mom is a person that will tell part or half of a story, leave out another part, and most importantly, leave out the parts that she did some bad things. So they have one parent that paints a picture that's not authentic, and they have another parent that either refuses to paint anything or paints a picture with both sides being accounted for. It may not be the most accurate. And when I say the most, I mean it may not be 100% accurate because sort of when we tell stories, we just kind of forget certain things, or there's our interpretation that's built into stories. But you can always do your best, and you can always try your best. And one day my children will have to come to they don't have to do anything. And I don't know if they ever will, which puts me at a place of great peace. Because all I know is there are so many things that I plan to do over the course of my life, and how things are and have worked out, it's nowhere near what I thought of or planned. Nothing. So it's just interesting looking at my life. Like, this podcast is called The Divorce Diaries. I am recording as often as I possibly can my divorce journey. Many years ago when I got married, I did not plan to be recording a divorce podcast. So you see how things aren't going to necessarily work out the way that we intend, but we still have to play the hand that we're dealt. And that's where I am. It's very calming to know that I hope one day to live to, a very, very healthy old age. And in my healthy old age, there is a chance that I may not be on speaking terms with any of my children. And that may be because I've done things directly to make that happen. It may be because someone else has done things to sort of help that happen. And I'm not saying it's all their fault. I'm saying that there are so many things that come into play because there's so little control we have over everything in our life, that if we had more control, I'm sure all of us that are married would still be married if the answer to certain problems was something something like, you know, if my husband would just listen, we wouldn't have these problems. Then you would just make him listen, and then your problems will go away. But there could be nuance there. It could be your husband doesn't listen, but you could be communicating things to him that he listens to, but he doesn't understand. Or your experience that you have is not the experience that he has. So this isn't really miscommunication. It's sort of misunderstanding and misinterpretation and misexperience. So it's a very difficult thing to gauge, judge, and understand, especially when we might be emotionally charged up. It's a really adverse situation. Can we do what's best in that moment? And it's very hard. So I am totally at peace with the fact that my life will not work out the way that I planned. My life is not working out the way that I'd planned. Not personally. We definitely have a little bit more control, I would say, over the professional decisions that we make or don't make. And you could probably derive some comfort from that because, like, let's say you want to meditate. You literally have that control. You can download a meditation app every morning for 5 minutes. You can meditate, or you can attempt to. But if you say, hey, I want to meditate with my wife every morning. Well, okay, the meditation part, you've got that. You can handle that. But what if your wife doesn't want that? Or worse, what if you put that criteria on your relationship? You haven't even met the person yet. I will marry a woman that meditates each morning. Okay, you could try. And there are a lot of people that would meditate every morning. Will they continue? Will you want to continue? Will the meditation be a little bit more of a chore? You guys getting on the same page, syncing up, finding time for each other. What if you're a morning person and she's a night owl? How will you meditate every morning? Will you wait for her to be ready around 9 a.m.? Or will you prefer to ask her to get up earlier so you guys can meditate at 6 together? You see, things become complicated when we introduce new layers. And as far as my children are concerned, things are going to be different for them as we introduce new layers. Layers of, wait, my mom isn't honest. My mom doesn't tell all of a story. So then you now are confronted with, what else might she have lied about? Or you say, what else did dad lie about? But then you're filtering through and you're like, wait, what was I told dad lied about? And did I ever talk to him? What do I remember him saying around that? And then you come to find out, like my kids will, if they ever accept it. I actually didn't talk to my father about that. The only information I have is my mom's. Well, what was my dad? You know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to think about this. I don't want to know. It's a very tough thing. And my therapist speaks a lot about shame. My therapist talks a lot about the shame that my kids might be going through. She even talks about the shame that my wife may be going through. Because my wife knows that she lies. She might not know it right now in this moment, now, today, but she knows that what she's saying is a lie because I remember when she finds out that I tell my version, let's say, of a particular story, she usually calls me and she says, oh my gosh, what did you say? I said this and that and that. Why would you say that? You're not telling the story that I'm telling. I'm telling the story as I remember it, why did you leave out these things from that story you told? Because it's not important, is what she'll say. It's not relevant. I'll say, oh, it's not relevant that you did this to me or that to me. It's not relevant that you called me a name and cursed me before I called you a name and cursed you. No, you should never speak to me in a certain way. Okay, I mean, I get it, and I'll submit, like, I don't feel great about having cursed at you, but if you told the story, why would you leave out the fact that you cursed me the first time? Why just not say anything? That was an argument between you and I, and we're husband and wife. Why tell the kids about an argument that we had? And if you were going to tell them about an argument we had, why don't you just tell them the play-by-play and just be honest about it? Because it doesn't matter. You don't need to be talking to them about what happened. And I had to very quickly understand that, oh, my wife wants certain parts of a story told. My wife wants stories told a certain way. My wife wants to be viewed a certain way. She doesn't want to be viewed as a person that contributed to a problem. I have it now. I understand. My wife is grossly concerned about how she is perceived. Okay. And my wife, she is not concerned enough with how she's perceived to not do certain things that will be viewed in poor taste, bad behavior, inappropriate. My wife still wants to be able to do the things that are in poor taste, bad behavior, and inappropriate, but she just doesn't want people to know that she did it, which explains why and when she had her affair, how flagrant it was, and how she sauntered around the house and she said, I have a friend, and why she was able to go shopping for her affair outfit with me and my son and then put it on that day and take selfies with my youngest daughter in the background, holding onto her leg. And it was just the most egregious, inappropriate, and horrible display of I don't give a fuck about anyone. That, yeah, I get it. And that explains why during that time, she did not, in all of our therapy sessions, after she'd began her affair, and I kept saying, is there something going on? And asked her, are you seeing anyone? What is happening? She keep asking telling me that, yeah, I've got a friend and I'm this and I'm that. And I'm like, and sorry, just trying to drive my car in this slippery parking lot here. My wife said a lot of these things and did a lot of these things and wanted to be given a pass or excuse herself or be excused from her behavior and what she did. And just like, yeah, I had a boyfriend because you made me mad. I'm like, okay, can we get to that in a second? Can you say, I'm sorry and blah, blah, blah. And well, I'm not. Okay, well, let's talk about why you aren't. But do you see what I mean? I didn't have the ability to say, oh, you're not sorry for cheating. Okay, I accept that. And it's over. I wish I would have had the bravery and the balls to say that to her. I wish I would have valued myself enough to know that when I'm not cared about, because I don't care. I mean, I do care, obviously, that she had an affair and she, quote unquote, made the mistake. But the fact that she didn't view sleeping with someone else, throwing it in my face, doing it in front of the kids, sauntering around and flaunting it in front of everyone and doing it at our job where she worked, and not caring and trying to get me and the gentleman together. I won't say gentleman. See, even how I speak now, I speak like a bitch, the fucktard that she was fucking with. she wanted to get us together because he was so bad and she was so bad. She said to me that, I want to get you guys together. He can tell you that nothing's going on. And I brought that up in therapy, marriage counseling. And I'm like, she actually said she wanted to get us together. And I'm like, were you actually going to do that? Were you actually going to get me together with your boyfriend so the two of you could sit across from me and lie and say nothing's going on? I didn't even think about it. Like, what kind of guy, even if nothing was going on, I would say, I'm not going to be in a relationship with this person because holy shit, no. I'm not going to be in a relationship with a person that would put me in their marriage. Like, you guys are having problems. Your husband is okay with meeting. I just had no self-respect. And my wife knew that. And it's why she treated me that way. It's why she didn't apologize. She didn't care. I didn't have any self-respect for myself. So in my wife's defense, why would she respect me? Why should she treat me good? I don't even have respect for myself. My kids are going to have to learn that eventually or accept it. But I also will be very comfortable going to my deathbed now knowing that, that may not happen. I don't have a lot of respect for myself, so maybe my kids shouldn't respect me either. It's time to be a man, right?
Wow! That was the Divorce Diaries podcast. The Daily Saga will continue tomorrow. The full season's episodes are on Patreon now. Subscribe for early access. Click the Patreon link in the description. Hopefully, these entries help our anonymous recorder as a form of his own personal therapy. That's his hope and his intention. Will these recordings of life's curveballs lead this family to the best resolution in the end? We'll keep listening. New episodes are released daily on all podcast players, but all episodes are available on Patreon at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Until next time.